Behind the fame that wrapped Elvis Presley like a shining crown, there lies a story so dark, so dangerous, and so deeply concealed that for years, decades even, no one, not even his most devoted fans, ever heard a single whisper of it. The world knew Elvis as an icon, a legend, a man who seemed to live a life of glory. But real life doesn't glitter the way stage lights do. Behind the thick curtain of success, Elvis once found himself trapped in one of the most traumatic, tense, and haunting moments any father could endure: the disappearance of his daughter under mysterious and alarming circumstances. There were no official reports, no newspaper headlines, no public statements, only silence and a covert operation led by a man the world only knew as the King. It all began on a night that seemed ordinary. Elvis had just finished a private rehearsal at Graceland when he sensed something wrong, something subtle yet chilling. The air felt heavy, and the usual lively chatter among his staff was replaced with a strange, uneasy quiet. A normally talkative assistant looked pale, and a guard at the back gate kept glancing around nervously as if hiding a terrible truth. Even before anyone spoke, Elvis felt a cold tremor of fear rising inside him. He walked quickly, almost running toward the family room where Lisa Marie should have been with her caretaker. But the room was empty, shockingly empty. On the floor lay Lisa's favorite doll, abandoned in a way that felt abrupt, wrong, frightening. When the caretaker finally confessed that Lisa was missing, Elvis felt the ground drop beneath him. His throat tightened, his mind raced, and for a moment he could barely breathe. He wasn't a superstar in that instant. He was a terrified father whose child had vanished. But fear quickly gave way to fury. Without hesitation, he ordered the entire estate to be locked down. No one in, no one out. Guards were dispatched to search every inch of the property. But deep down, Elvis already knew the truth. This wasn't a simple disappearance. Something far more sinister had happened. And calling the police immediately could put Lisa in even greater danger. A formal investigation meant publicity. Publicity meant reporters, helicopters, flashing cameras, and all of it could endanger a little girl who might already be in the hands of dangerous people. Elvis couldn't allow that, so he made a rare, risky decision. He would handle everything in secret. This was the beginning of the operation no one would learn about for years. Elvis contacted people who existed outside the public eye, individuals who were part of private networks, the kind that operated in gray areas, even in the shadows. Some were former military, some were private intelligence operatives, and some were people who owed Elvis personal favors from long ago. Now he was calling on those debts. The first clue came from a technician who claimed he had seen an unfamiliar car parked near the back fence of Graceland over the past few days. Suspicious, out of place. Elvis sent 2 men to investigate. They returned with disturbing evidence: tire tracks, cigarette butts, and a piece of fabric that Elvis immediately recognized. It belonged to Lisa's dress. When the fabric was placed in Elvis's hand, his entire body shook. But the trembling turned into something else: resolve, burning, unbreakable resolve. Whoever took his daughter had awakened a side of Elvis no one had ever seen. He and his small covert team descended into Memphis's underworld. They searched dim bars, abandoned houses, and neighborhoods no celebrity would dare walk through. In these places, the city's dark underbelly revealed itself. Informants spoke only when paid, some trembling at the mention of Elvis's missing daughter. This alone told the team that the kidnappers were not amateurs. They were bold, organized, and dangerous. Piece by piece, a chilling picture began to form. The kidnapping was planned, not random. Someone had studied the family, mapped their routines, and chosen a moment when Lisa was most vulnerable. Elvis felt both rage and dread rising inside him, but even worse was the realization that the FBI had already sensed unusual criminal activity from a certain group, yet they were delaying action due to lack of evidence. If the FBI stepped in fully and the media caught wind of it, everything would spiral out of control. Elvis made a decision no one expected. He would find his daughter before the FBI did. The operation grew deeper, darker, more dangerous. Elvis disguised himself, old jacket, worn hat, dark glasses, and walked through alleys and back rooms where no one would ever expect to see the king of rock and roll. He sat in smoke-filled rooms, listening to cryptic information from men with criminal pasts. He traded favors. He pushed boundaries, all for one purpose: to find Lisa. Then, after days of tension and dead ends, a message arrived. It came through an old contact in Nashville. Lisa is alive. They moved her to a warehouse out town. You have little time. Everyone in the room froze. Elvis stood slowly, his face pale but his eyes blazing. This was the moment, the chance he might never get again. A fast, silent rescue plan was formed. Elvis refused to stay behind. He insisted on going, no matter how dangerous. 2 cars sped through the dark roads of Memphis, heading toward an old warehouse that looked abandoned. The night felt heavier than ever. Elvis's heart pounded in his ears. He didn't care about his fame. He didn't care about the danger. He cared only for one thing: Lisa. The warehouse appeared lifeless, but one of the men spotted movement inside. Elvis and his team entered quietly. Every footstep felt like a countdown. Then, from somewhere deep in the building, came a sound. A whimper. Soft, fragile, terrifyingly familiar. Elvis's heart stopped. It was Lisa. Without thinking, he burst forward. Chaos erupted. Shouts, scrambling feet, something crashing to the floor. His team tackled the fleeing kidnappers, while Elvis sprinted toward the corner where Lisa was bound. When she saw him, she broke into desperate sobs. Elvis fell to his knees, holding her tightly, whispering over and over, "Daddy's here. I've got you. You're safe now." Tears streamed down his face. He didn't try to hide them. The kidnappers were captured, but they were not turned over to law enforcement, not immediately. They were taken to a private location where they were interrogated intensely. What Elvis learned was chilling. This was not just a kidnapping for ransom. It was connected to a deeper network, people who wanted to pressure him, exploit him, maybe even ruin him. The motives were unclear, but the threat was real. None of what happened next was ever recorded in official documents. No police files, no FBI entries, no public statements. Everything vanished, handled quietly, silenced forever. Lisa was brought home safely. Elvis stayed by her side for days, barely sleeping. Something inside him had changed, deeply, permanently. He performed again weeks later, and audiences noticed he seemed quieter, more distant, but no one understood why. Only a handful of people knew the truth. Years later, bits of the story leaked from those who had been there. Whispers turned into rumors. Rumors turned into a kind of myth. But still, there was no proof, no written records, nothing that could confirm the existence of the secret operation. Yet one thing was undeniable. Elvis was never the same again. The truth, hidden for years, is not just a title. It is a window into a chapter of Elvis Presley's life that almost no one knew existed, a chapter filled with fear, danger, courage, and unconditional love. Behind the legend was a father who stepped into the darkness for his daughter and won her back. And the world never knew. Until now.